Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rock and Shock Radio. We bring you this program on terrestrial radio, on our podcast, and also on YouTube. So be sure to check it out. You can go to our website, intothefire.rocks. Again, that's intothefire.rocks, and become a member of the Rock and Shock Nation. So I have with me today to hang out the legendary singer of Exodus, Zetro. What's up, Zet? Welcome to the program.
Dude, I'm a metal and a horror guy, so I'm right up your alley. I love to talk this kind of stuff, actually. It's cool. Good to be here.
Now, I've said this before, Zetro. It just seems like, if you're a fan of the heavy metal, then you're also a fan of horror. I've seen this so many times. Yes, it does go hand in hand. And we especially saw this merging of metal and horror, during the decade of decadence, that decade that rocked the 80s to the 90s, where we saw, the music and the artwork really imitating horror films. And the bond's been getting stronger and stronger. But before we talk horror today, I just want to get any updates on Tom. How's he doing?
Tom's doing great. Tom, actually, we kind of all keep in touch with each other on a group text every couple of days, especially with everything with the new record coming out later this year and everything that's going on. But he sent us a picture of himself the other day, and he's received his fourth treatment out of 8, and he feels great. We're booked for Psycho Vegas in August, on August 22nd. And Tom will be there. So he's one of the strongest guys I've ever met in my life. And I knew he'd kick the shit out of this. I knew it, you know what I mean? And he's great attitude. Everybody's behind him. And, the big C isn't necessarily a death sentence anymore. They have so many advancements in care, and his doctor's like the hugest Slayer fan. So that worked out pretty well. So they got a team of guys on there. It's not we think we're going to beat this. It's like, no, we're going to beat this. No problem. We got you. So he's going to be great.
What can the fans do to get involved, to help him out? I know there was some pages, some GoFundMe.
Yeah, just go to Gary Holt's page, and there's a GoFundMe there. I think they're over $91,000 or $92,000. People, the fans. That's the thing about metal, guys. It's like we are in a very tight knit fraternity. Fans, members, anybody that has anything to do with the business, we all have each other's backs, kind of. I don't know if there's another genre of music that holds that true like this, because again, in metal, we only have each other. There's no outlet, there's no medium, there's no radio, really, there's no television for it, there's nowhere you can go watch your weekly metal show. It just doesn't work like that. We have YouTube, guys like you and guys like me that do shows, you know what I mean, and keep it alive. But we have each other. But with that being said, that's how come metal bands last forever, because the fans stay true. They're never, fair weather. It's not like, oh shit, I used to listen to Slayer. Yeah, I listened to them for like a summer. When have you ever heard that? You know what I mean? Right. You either love it or you don't. So that pays homage to the fans. And I think the fans, when it was time to step up. Tom is a great guy. If you're to meet him personally, fans, doesn't matter. I've never heard a bad word out of his mouth. I've never heard a bad word about him from anyone. He knows how to act. And when you get that kind of respect from your fans and your peers, people are like willing to, come to your call. And that's what's really happening here. And it's great.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's great to hear. I'm going to put a link up on the video and also on the website, intothefire.rocks. Again, intothefire.rocks. So make sure you check it out and get involved and help support Tom. So let's talk a little horror. You and I are products of the 70s. I was very young in the 70s, but really got into the horror genre. How did it start for you? I know you have a lot of horror tattoos and things like that.
I mean, my motorcycle, I just had my Harley painted with all horror theme on it. I have, on the fairing, I have Exorcist Linda Blair. On the other side, I have the man with the sharp teeth. That's his name too, with the sharp teeth and the stone pot hat from London After Midnight. And on my tank, I have the Bride on one side, Ardith Bay, and Nosferatu. And on the other side of the tank, I have Living Dead Girl, the Wolfman, and Dracula. And then on my front fender, I have Barnabas Collins, who's like one of my heroes. I'm actually wearing a shirt and tattoo. And on the back, I have Karloff's Frankenstein. And then on my rear fender, there was a horror guy in the 70s that every Friday or Saturday night showed the horror show, Creature Features, and his name was Bob Wilkins, and he had a cigar. And I have him painted ghosted in on the tank in the back. So I have everything. My house is completely decorated in horror. You come and think you've seen metal on the walls, and it's totally opposite. It's like, But I started Dark Shadows. I was born in 1964. My mother started watching that soap opera in probably 66 or 60. It started in 66. And I started watching it with probably 3 or 4 because I remember hiding around the corner, peeking at the TV and then pulling my head back when Barnabas showed his fangs. But that was the start. And then Creature Features and then anything horror, even cartoons. I loved the Groovy Ghoulies. I loved any cartoon that had Scooby-Doo, anything that had monsters or any kind of monster theme to it. I wanted that toy. I wanted whatever. I just was fascinated by it.
Now, I know for me, when I was young, I loved the Saturday morning cartoons, but I also loved Land of the Lost. I mean, that was one of my favorites. And, for a little kid, it's kind of scary. You look at it now, the dinosaurs are a little cheesy, but, that's how it really got started for me.
I got a good story for you. Over the last few years, rockers do comic book conventions now. Right. And I became friends with Holly, Kathy Coleman. She's like my very good friend.
Really?
I did a comic book convention and met her where it was her, Will, and Chaka. And they get this other guy that they work with dresses up as a slee stack, and you can get in a boat and take a picture with them. So I was kind of by them, and I went out to dinner with her, and we became friends. And ever since, I talk to her probably every couple of weeks. I have a conversation with her. Yeah, she's the greatest. She lives in Vegas. She's my girl. Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows. So I try to tell her all the time. You don't even know. She's like, oh my God, you're like this rock star. I'm like, I ain't shit. You're Polly. I call her all the time, Polly Marshall. I call her. I go, Marshall, this is your boy. Hey, hi, honey. How are you? And she sent me a signed script from the show that she
really.
Had. Yeah, so I keep in touch. I love all that old 70s type stuff, but to become friends with her, I tried to tell her. I remember having a soccer game, and it was at 9 or 9:30, and they showed Land of the Lost at 9 or 9:30, and I wouldn't even go to my soccer game because back then there was no VCRs or DVRs or any of that shit.
Right.
That was it. So I stayed home to watch from the soccer game to watch it. And now, I'm friends with her, and I see Will. I'm friends with Will too. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
And Chaka, he still comes around. Yep.
That's funny.
Oh, he dresses up in that little thing on. It's killer. It's cool. It's cool about that. That's my life, is pop culture like that. He told me that with the year that it debuted in 74, because they ran 3 seasons, and for a child's cartoon, a child's Saturday morning cartoon, the season you were done. Usually that ran 3 seasons. She said not only in 1974 it was the number 1 children's cartoon on Saturday morning, it was the number 1 show on NBC that year.
Really?
It was. I remember it was the first time he saw a dinosaur and nothing, even though they were cheesy and the acts and the whole thing. It was great. I mean, I was again a big fan. You know what I mean? And becoming friends with her, it was like like I said, I've needled her for stories and stuff about things. It's been really cool, and I live for that kind of stuff. I really do.
That's awesome. I got to get her on this show, man, because that's awesome.
I can ask her if she'll do it. She's really cool. And if she could Skype it, I'm sure she wouldn't. Let me ask her. Let me text her and see if she'll do it.
That'd be awesome.
She's pretty friendly and pretty open about doing those types of things.
I got to see her on Creature Features the 2 times. I believe it was 2 times that she's been on. And I know you're involved with them as well.
Friends with those guys. So that's how I kind of. So I keep in touch with. I see Vincent all the time. He's a good friend of mine. I keep in touch with him. I did the theme song for the show.
Can you picture that awful creature? Can you picture that ugly creature? With Livingston and Ted Gillett too, and our host Vincent Landau, and he brings it to you.
I'm actually going to be as a guest in July. I think I'm booked in July, but it won't get played probably till August because he's usually 4 weeks out. But I think I'm filming it again because I've done it twice too. But I love it. It's cool. Yeah, no, she's really good at she's very friendly. She's very, very friendly. I love her to death.
Yeah, well, I used to watch Creature Features, and for us, it came on Saturday. It was like Saturday afternoon, but it wasn't consistent. It always flipped with that or Kung Fu Theater. But again, from being in the Philly area, Dr. Shock was big. Now I'm watching, of course, Creature Features, but also Svengoolie out of Chicago.
Svengoolie, I still watch him. I watch him every week.
Yeah, Svengoolie comes on at 8 o'clock on Saturdays here in Florida. Creature Features, man, I'm really into that, and I feel like that dynamic between those three with Livingston, Tangella, and Vincent, it's awesome, real captivating, and I really enjoy watching that on Saturdays.
He has to do a show a week, and sometimes it's tough to get guests because, you're doing a show a week. And I go, honestly, I said, you don't need a guest. I go, you guys, the three of the banter that you have along with you is so awesome. You know what I mean? So it is. It's fun to watch, and I love the old school shitty movies like that. And he got his hands on some of the 70s ones lately. He's been showing like Lizzie Borden he showed recently, and Trilogy of Terror recently. So he's getting those movies that they ran one time on a Tuesday ABC Tuesday night movie, and that was it. So it's great. That's why, and I live for that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, like all the old Hammer films from the 70s. I love that with Christopher Lee. And
every Halloween, man. Every Halloween, those things. I go through my whole Rolodex. Yeah, I watch them all of them. The original Frankenstein, the original Dracula. I love them all. The original Mummy. I love that movie. That's that and the Invisible Man are probably the most ruthless stories out of him, because when he's invisible, the first one, he just wants to kill people. You know what I mean? He at least Dracula's a vampire, asked you to live. Frankenstein had a deranged brain, but he wanted. His whole thing was he's going to kill people. So I like the story of the Invisible Man. Not as shocking as makeup wise. It's not when it hits the screen it pops or anything, but the story's ruthless. And like on my bike, I don't have the Mummy. I have Ardith Bay, who he kind of turns into from Imhotep, and that's the part that Karloff plays. And he's all wrinkled and his eyes evil. I love Ardith Bay. He's one of my most evil, very evil images that I look at when I look at horror movies and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I love the classics, man. Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, two of my favorite films. It's just the way they did it back then. I love the settings. Great storyline.
Is perfect Fritz and a perfect Renfield. You know what I mean? He's perfect at those things. It's just they casted them all very well.
Yeah, the casting was great, and even those iconic movie posters. A lot of great artwork, and those things are they're pretty valuable today. But I want to get back to our Saturday mornings. One of those shows that I really loved was Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of.
That came on for us during the week, but I love that. I always do this imitation of the Mayans believe. He was always Leonard Nimoy was great, and that was like one of the first times I'd ever heard about Bigfoot, because I'm a huge Bigfoot guy too.
Oh, so am I, man.
I complete anything on it, I'll watch. I'm a total believer. I think that our humans in a society, we're so arrogant. We think we've discovered everything. We don't think that something is elusive like that or couldn't be hidden away. You know what I mean? And come on, is everybody a liar? Think about it. In fact, the stories aren't even fake anymore. There's no reason to. You'd sound like an idiot to try to make a story like that. You know what I mean? Because it's so, pronounced now. Everybody knows what it is,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, man. And, they said the same thing about UFOs. For decades now, we're finding out that the government's been hiding it from us. And most of us, we've known that. But it's funny because we have a lot of things in common, and I believe, most horror metal guys do. But I've been going back to the theater recently, and let's talk about some films. Any films out there that you really like? And I happened to see Quiet Place 2 the other night. didn't care for it. And what's your thoughts on that movie if you saw it?
I thought it was Quiet Place 2. People say, "Oh, I loved it." No, I think you loved going back to the movies is all. Right. Actually, I've been going back for a month and a half. I think I've been to the movies 15 times in the last. I've seen pretty much everything. But I'll tell you the movie that's on Amazon that's not at the movies, that is probably one of the creepiest horror flicks I've seen lately. It's called The Witch. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Oh, that one, just the presence, yes. The whole, everything about it is just the cinematography about it, the scenery. It's just, that is an evil movie. I thought to me, out of everything I've seen recently, that was good. Army of the Dead was good too.
I heard you talk about that on your show the other day, and I haven't seen that yet, but I'm going to watch it this week.
I liked it. I thought that it was like Walter kind of nailed it on the head. He said it's like Ocean's 11 meets zombie movie. And I liked it. It's a long one. It's 2.5 hours, but the zombies in this are a little bit hybrid. They're a little bit more like, movable, and they can think, they function, and it's kind of cool how it goes down. And the little side stories that are in on it are fucking way cool out when it comes down to it too. So I thought that was really good. I thought that the Saw movie had a good story to it. But again, somebody explained to me, they said, I like Saw when it has 20% of the cops trying to figure it out and 80% of you trying to gadgets. This one was like 80% of Chris Rock trying to figure it out and 20%. But the kill gadgets that they used in this one were awesome. Wow. So I've seen that one too. So did you see Midsommar?
No, I haven't.
That came out like I think a couple of years ago. It's on Netflix or one of those. That is a very not kind of like The Witch, very out there, trippy horror type thing going on, and the kills are very graphic.
So yeah, man, I got to check that one out. Quiet Place 2, didn't care for it at all.
I didn't care for Quiet Place 2 either. They didn't explain who those weird people were. They just, Cillian Murphy says at one point, there's those people out there ain't worth saving, and then they run into them. And they don't explain any much about them, and then they're just out of the story. I think what it was John Krasinski going, we killed it on the last one. Let's get one out there real quick, because I just didn't care for the story. I didn't think it had the best parts were the first couple of minutes when the bus was coming that they show you in the previews. I wasn't much. I thought it was okay. And if the monsters could be thwarted, I don't want to ruin anybody's thing who hasn't seen it, thwarted by the way they were thwarting them, how come the government hadn't figured that out yet, or they had in massed waves to move them? I was just like, it's okay, it's all right.
No, I agree. And they also didn't explain how she came to that realization, to get on a boat, that they had to get onto a boat and go to this island. So a lot of things just didn't make sense, and a lot of those dots they weren't connecting at all.
Yeah, there was a lot of it was just like they threw it together, and I think that people were like, "Whoa, Quiet Place was killer." I'm all, no, you were just happy to be back to the movie.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
I go at 11 in the morning or 12 or 1 o'clock on a Tuesday or Wednesday.
That's the best time, man.
I'm telling you, recently I've seen probably since it opened April 3rd. I've seen probably 15 movies because it's what I do. And I usually am empty when I go, especially, I don't know if it's just people are paranoid or the time that I go, but I usually have the theater to myself, usually.
Godzilla versus King Kong. What'd you think of that?
I like Collateral Damage. I'm not looking for a story necessarily. I think they intertwined it. Okay. Godzilla using the scepter thing as fire and King Kong only talking to some little girl.
Yeah.
I can't say I want to hate it, you know what I mean? But again, the fight scenes were great because the way I look at it is it's like, and they looked real. Like, so if you, the buildings that they were knocking into, if you think about it in a subway, kind of in a sub-mind, you go, don't pay attention to the monsters. Pay attention to the building that has about 10,000 people laid into. And they couldn't have evacuated all those buildings in that amount of time. And that's what I think of when they're crushing through the collateral damage, because they swipe through like 3 huge skyscrapers in one thing. And I'm thinking, okay, so that was about 30,000 people killed. If you, if you were, there's no way all 3 of those buildings are empty. Those building engineers are Ananda and whoever, but I just think of those kind of things and I'm thinking, wow, I don't know. The story was like, again, as long as there's good collateral damage and a good fight. I didn't give it high marks.
No, either did I. I don't, again, I understand the storyline. We're looking for the damage, but that film just seemed like it wanted to rely too much on, the computer generated stuff. And it just it lacked a lot of stuff.
Bored with it a little bit.
Yeah, it did. What's your top 5? Your top 5 horror films
ever?
Zetro's picks ever.
All of the originals except for The Exorcist is number 1. The Exorcist is the scariest horror film ever made, ever. And then it would go probably Dracula because he's my favorite. Bella, that whole, even Peter Cushing. Dracula's always been my favorite monster, with Frankenstein close second. Probably 3rd or 4th, I'd have to go like Texas Chainsaw, Omen, something like that, even though all of the classics are right there, the Wolfman, but just the top 5 just off my head. If I had to go to a desert island, probably like that. Again, The Exorcist, with dialogue, content, makeup, premise, everything about that movie was just like, the things she says out of her mouth, her actions with the cross and the other things. I mean, coming from a 12-year-old girl, you know what I mean? It's the whole premise of it, and a demon coming in and possessing. I mean, I was 9 when that movie came out in 1973, and I didn't even see it for another 2 years. I think it was 2 years. I saw it in October 75. Showtime was just new in the world, or in the States. I don't know if it was anywhere else, but I know Showtime was new and we had it. And so I remember them debuting The Exorcist on a Saturday night at like 7 or 8 o'clock. And I was like riveted in front of the TV. And that was the first time I seen it. And just from the things that were said, when she becomes, possessed, and the whole thing. So it's just the premise of it, the priests, the backstory with that, just everything about it, and I just thought that it's very horrific. The head turning around when she raises, the rip on the leg just rips. It's just blood curdling.
The perfect horror film, man. It really is.
So I think so. Again, because I'm so classic. I mean, Frankenstein and Dracula and The Bride and all that kind of stuff in the beginning. I won't throw any of those out of bed. But The Exorcist is, to me, is like, to me, the best movie ever made in the world ever is The Godfather. The Exorcist is the Godfather of of movies. And it's surprising that my favorite movie is not a horror movie, but to me, the best movie ever made was The Godfather.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, Exorcist is number one on my list, and I love The Omen, The Thing. You know, I love The Thing. That's a great one.
Again, I can't sit here and say 5 because
it's hard. It really is hard.
We're talking about doing the comic book things. I did a comic book signing with the Warriors from the Warriors, and 5 of them were there and her. And one of the Warriors, it was in The Thing. And so they've all got their vests on. I'd like sitting there on the table, and I walk up to him. Which guy was it? He was the guy who gets hit by the train that they push into the train. Okay. He's also The Thing. He's the guy with the beard. And I can't think of his actor's name. And I walked him up to him. I go, I love the Warriors, but I tell you what, The Thing was the scariest movie ever. And he just looked at me like, dude, tell me, I go, to this day, that movie just is creepy and scary. And if you talk to real horror people, they'll tell you The Thing.
What else do you want to put out there that's going on with Exodus now?
Well, new album, Persona Non Grata, will be released in, I think the 3rd. There's not a date yet. I'm going to say 3rd week, the last week that they're going to release in November. That they stop at a certain point. I believe it's the last week in November. We do have some shows lined up right now. There's 3 Psycho Vegas in Vegas with a bunch of other bands. Danzig, Down. I mean, there's like a list of bands on there. Obituary, Cannibal Corpse. And then we're doing Full Terror Assault, and that's in Illinois. That's in September. And then we come back to California to do this real big festival that I think everybody from Anthrax to Metallica to Rancid to Offspring to the Misfits is on. It's called Aftershock. And then it looks like the world's opening up. So we should just be out there, and we should be in Florida at some time at that point. You know what I mean? It seems like I know you guys are way open down there. You never close. Jesus. And we're in the most choked one out of them all. You know?
Yeah, right.
It's opening here now, though. It's finally opening. So we'll be back to normal real soon. So, and then if you want to catch me, I have my own YouTube channel, Zetro's Toxic Vault, and I do tons of music interviews with other artists and movie reviews, and I talk about horror, and my set is all decorated in horror, and so it's just a fun time to be had at all. Actually, next week's episode, I don't know when this will be aired, but next week's episode, I have a guy from a band called Ruffians come in, and we do an artist spotlight. We just do an hour of talking about Judas Priest, and we just talked about from the beginning to Defenders of the Faith.
Wow.
So we just talk about how they influenced us, seeing them live, and what it was like, and the band changes at that time, and them changing. We just talk about it, So it's kind of fun.
Well, we'll have to catch up sometime when we're on tour. If you're in Florida, we're out in California.
Yep.
We'll have to meet up, man. This is gonna be great.
No problem, Ray. Stay metal, brother, and stay horror.
We're throwing down.